It started in the most boring way possible, which is how a lot of life-changing moments sneak up on you. Just a hot afternoon, a hardware store parking lot, nothing special at all. 3 sentences in, and here's the truth. I thought I was about to load my truck, go home, crack a cold drink, and forget the day ever happened. Instead, I ended up handcuffed in public by federal agents who decided I didn't look American enough. Yeah, that happened. The heat was brutal, the kind that presses down on your shoulders and makes the asphalt shimmer like it's alive. I remember that detail clearly because when you're uncomfortable like that, everything sticks. I had lumber stacked in the back of my pickup, sweat running down my neck, mind already on the deck I was building. Nothing about me screamed trouble, nothing about me screamed criminal. I was just a woman doing weekend chores in work boots and an old hoodie. I reached for my driver's door and heard boots behind me. Not footsteps, boots, heavy, confident, moving fast. You know what I mean? When you can tell someone isn't asking a question, they're issuing a decision. Ma'am, we need proof of citizenship right now. I didn't jump. I didn't spin around. I paused. There's a difference. I turned slowly, hands visible, and there they were, 3 federal agents in tactical vests, badges, out radios, humming, already acting like I belonged to them. One of them stood closer than necessary, just close enough to feel deliberate. I told them I was a U.S. veteran. I told them they had no reason to stop me. I meant it calmly, not as a challenge, more like stating the weather. The lead agent smiled, not friendly, more like amused, and said they had every right, that if I didn't show papers, I was coming with them. That smile told me everything. This wasn't about documents. This was about power. I said, you want proof, fine, but you're going to regret how you're doing this. And I swear it wasn't a threat, it was an observation. They said it was a targeted inquiry document fraud in the area, the usual vague language that sounds official but says nothing. One agent drifted to my right, another to my left, and suddenly I was boxed in. I clocked the security camera on the light pole without even thinking about it, old habits from a life before this one. If you've ever been trained to survive bad situations, you know your body does the math before your brain catches up. I asked what specifically connected me to document fraud, what description they were given, why me. The answer was nothing, just pressure, just tone. The lead agent told me if I was legal, it would only take 5 minutes. That line still makes me laugh bitterly because the Constitution doesn't work on a stopwatch. I told them they were stopping me without probable cause. I said the words unconstitutional and unreasonable seizure out loud. Saying those words changes the temperature in a situation. You can feel it. His jaw tightened. He said my refusal made me suspicious. Funny how that works, right? You assert your rights and suddenly that's the problem. I reached into my pocket, slowly narrating every movement, and pulled out my phone. I said I was recording. People nearby started paying attention. A couple stopped walking. A guy loading mulch leaned against his car. Cameras make authority nervous, especially when authority isn't on solid ground. I invoked my Fourth Amendment rights, clearly not mumbling, not emotional. I said I was a citizen, a veteran, that I didn't consent to any search or seizure. Then I called my lawyer and put it on speaker. I'd saved that number years ago after watching someone else get harassed for no reason. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, that lesson sticks. When my attorney answered professional and sharp, I saw the lead agent's face change. Not fear, more like irritation, mixed with the slow realization that this wasn't going to be easy. My lawyer asked one simple question. What is your probable cause? Be specific. Silence. That silence felt loud. The parking lot kept moving around us, carts, rattling cars, pulling in and out, but in that circle, nothing happened except seconds ticking by. Finally, the agent said they had discretion. My lawyer said discretion isn't probable cause. Do you have reasonable suspicion, yes or no? Instead of answering, he grabbed my arm. I said loudly, I am not resisting. That's important. Anyone who's ever been in a situation like that knows you narrate for the record, for witnesses, for the cameras. He cuffed me anyway. The sound of those cuffs, metal snapping shut, it still echoes in my head. I kept talking. I said I was a citizen. I said I served this country. I said I was being seized without probable cause. One of the agents wouldn't look at me. Another kept scanning the crowd, which had grown to at least a dozen people, phones out recording. Scenes like that don't disappear. They multiply. They tried to walk me toward an SUV at the edge of the lot. I asked if I was under arrest, what the charges were. They said I was being detained for processing, that word games people play when they know they're on thin ice. I stopped walking. Not fighting, not pulling away, just stopped. I said I wasn't getting in the vehicle. I said I hadn't been lawfully detained. I said if they forced me in, it would be kidnapping. My lawyer warned them again, clearly calmly, that they were violating established constitutional rights. Then the radio crackled. A supervisor told them to stand down and release me immediately. Just like that, the power shifted. The lead agent uncuffed me rough like he was angry at the ground instead of himself. My wrists were red burning. I asked for a complaint form. He told me to file it at the office. I told him I'd file it in court. And I did. 2 weeks later, the lawsuit went in. Security footage, body cams, audio timestamps, everything. 18 minutes of unlawful detention laid out frame by frame. The government tried to settle quietly, first low, then higher. I laughed not because it was funny, but because it was insulting. You don't put a price tag like that on dignity and expect someone to nod. The trial came 15 months later. Veterans packed the courtroom pins on their jackets, quiet but present. Civil rights groups filled the benches. The jury watched the footage over and over, saw the approach, the containment, the silence when probable cause was requested. They saw me standing there, calm, handcuffed, refusing to be bullied. I testified about my service, about surviving overseas, only to be treated like a suspect at home for buying lumber. I talked about training that taught me to document everything, to stay calm, to control the narrative when things go wrong. The supervisor testified too. Under oath, he admitted what everyone already knew: there was no probable cause, no reasonable suspicion, no justification. The jury deliberated for days. When they came back, the foreperson stood up, hands shaking, and read the verdict: liability on all counts. Then came damages, compensatory, punitive, $7.6 million. The room erupted, people crying, hugging veterans, standing a little straighter. The lead agent was fired. One resigned. One got reassigned to a desk far away from the field. Policies were reviewed, training updated, statements issued that said procedures had always been in place, even though we all knew that wasn't the point. I didn't walk away feeling triumphant. I walked away feeling resolved. I used part of the settlement to help other veterans who didn't have lawyers on speed dial, who didn't know how to speak up in the moment. Because here's the part that still sits heavy with me: how many people go through this and never get a courtroom, never get a verdict, never get believed. That parking lot camera is still there, still recording everything in high definition, watching people come and go. Sometimes cameras watch us. Sometimes they protect us. The difference is whether someone knows to stand in their view and refuse to back down. So let me ask you this, and I really want to know what you think. Were those agents enforcing the law or enforcing a bias they never thought they'd be held accountable for? Should it take a lawsuit, a trial, and millions of dollars to remind people that the Constitution applies to everyone? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Argue with me if you want. Share your own story if you've seen something like this, because the only way these things change is if we stop pretending they don't happen and start talking about them out loud.